This episode was kind of a hard one to record. I'm going to share when I reached kind of my lowest low, the lowest low in my life before reinventing my life and turning things around. This happened when I was 20 years old, believe it or not. So I'm going to share this. I'm going to warn you, I talk about alcohol abuse and depression in this episode. I'm Larry Cornett, and this is Invincible Life. So this is issue number 80 if you follow along with my newsletter at newsletter.invinciblelife.me. And you can always go to larrycornett.coach if you want to check out my newsletters, and I have links to all three of the newsletters in my podcast and things like that. So yeah, this one I'm going to give you a warning up front because I'm going to talk about alcohol abuse. I'm going to talk about depression. And so if that's not something you want to listen to, this is probably an episode for you to skip. But yeah, this is kind of hard to talk about, but I figured it's time. Believe it or not, I hit rock bottom in my life at around 20 years old. I'm having a hard time remembering the exact age that I was. I was around 20. And I've never shared this story before. A few people in my life know about it. Very few people. I actually just recently shared it with some members of my family. But I figured, as someone who coaches people, and I do life coaching and career coaching, business coaching too, and I'm often coaching people who worry that they're failing. They worry that they're failing in their job or in their career, that their business might fail. And many people are ultimately worried that they're failing their life. They worry that it's not going where they want it to go and that it's not going to end up where they want it to end up. And they're depressed and they're upset about how things are going, and they feel like they're falling behind. So I figured this is time. It's time to share this because I want folks to know it's always possible to turn your life around. Always. It may not feel like it. And I know that if you follow me on social media, if you've been following my newsletter or you follow my other newsletters, you probably don't know where my life was before I reached this point. And judging by some of the comments I've received on social media, on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Threads, Twitter, other places, and some of the DMs I've received, I get people sending me kind of unhappy messages about something I've said. I think some people believe my life has always been easy, that I come from a place of wealth and privilege, that I'm somehow a very lucky person. And I know I do have some privilege. Absolutely aware of that. But it hasn't been all sunshine and puppies, My life has not been unicorn ponies frolicking in a meadow full of beautiful flowers and butterflies. It's just, unfortunately, that's not true. How cool would that be, though? However, it is true that now, at this point in my life, for the last, maybe 7 years or so, I'm the happiest I've ever been. This is the happiest I've been in my life, which is kind of funny, reaching my late 50s. But things are getting better and better. I think now it's because I focus relentlessly on my relationships, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my children. And my wife helps me a lot with that. She's always helping me navigate things with my relationships with people, and she's better at that than I am. I focus on being healthy. I've talked about this so many times. Yeah, today we just went to the ski resort and I just finished working out a little bit ago. And that started 16 years ago, being very serious about my health and what I eat and how I work out. And I work on things I believe in. I've talked about leaving the corporate world over 14 years ago, starting my own businesses, beginning this career coaching, life coaching, business coaching practice about 7 years ago or so, or a little over 7 years ago. And I believe in it. I love the people I work with. It feels meaningful to me. It gives me purpose. So I'm spending my days the way I want. I'm very careful about my time. I understand how precious it is. And as I get older, I realize how little is left. So I'm very careful. And so, yeah, that's why I'm the happiest I've ever been. And I think the other reason is that I did hit bottom once. And I know what that looks like. I was at a point, around 20, that I didn't like where my life was heading. It was pretty bad. I didn't like who I had become. And I knew eventually I had to find a better path forward. I did find a better path forward, or I wouldn't be talking to you right now. And now I am very focused on not backsliding like that ever again and landing in a situation like that again. So it kind of started when I was around, 18. I think I just turned 18 barely. And I went to, kind of a small town high school where I didn't have to really work that hard to get good grades. This is kind of the unfortunate side effect of things being too easy in life, I would say, in this case, where I didn't study that much. I didn't work that hard, and I got all A's, and I did pretty well on my my SATs and stuff like that. So I'm not that dumb, although I feel stupid sometimes. So I got a scholarship. I got a full ride scholarship to the university in our state. It covered all my tuition. It was supposed to be 4 years, full ride for 4 years. But I landed at school and I had gone with some friends, and we had been people who had partied together in high school, and we continued partying in college. And I thought college would be just like everything had been before in my life, 12 plus years of school, that I didn't have to work hard and I get A's. That was not true at college. I thought I could skip classes. I thought I didn't have to study and I could just show up and take a midterm and get an A, or go show up and take the final and I'd pass and get an A. And I didn't. I got horrible grades. I failed some stuff. I got a bunch of D's, and I screwed up my first year of college so badly that I lost my scholarship. Obviously, my GPA dropped. So I lost it. No more tuition covered, right? And I don't come from a wealthy family. So my parents were like, uh-oh, that's not good. You're going to have to apply for Pell Grants. You're going to have to get student loans. You're going to have to get, more jobs. I was already working. So I tried for a while and didn't know how to apply myself, didn't know what to do. And I was just not doing well. And so I dropped out of college. I dropped out. And I just began working any job I could find. I was working at fast food restaurants. I had worked at McDonald's. I worked at a Mexican restaurant. Had a job at a trophy shop where we assembled trophies. It's a interesting job. I think one of the jobs I had was at a road construction equipment company. Kind of blue collar jobs. And I wasn't making very much money. I was just living in a basic apartment, sharing an apartment with a couple of guys. And so, I was working blue collar jobs. We were still partying, just kind of going through life. And I remember one day my girlfriend at the time, said, you know what, I'm going to break up with you. So she broke up with me and said, you're going nowhere. You're never going to be anything. You're not going to amount to anything. And that hurt to hear, of course. Who likes to hear that? You're not going to be anything in your life. It's not like she was wrong. She was right at the time. And so that was a summer. I think I was living on my own, had an efficiency apartment. I think I was still working at the trophy shop. So that was a pretty bad summer. Pretty depressed, pretty down. And so I was still hanging out with the party crowd, and all these guys were also dropped out of college, never went to college. Most of us, I think all of us, were working various blue collar jobs. And we'd work our jobs during the day and then get together after work and play basketball, in the summer, grab some sandwiches or pizza or whatever, some fast food. And then we'd go to someone's house and we would just drink and party all night. And that was our life. Get up, go to work, the job, get together after work, play basketball, drink and party, rinse and repeat. That was my summer. And at one point, I was keeping, I think it was a bottle of vodka in the freezer, and I was making screwdrivers every morning, mixing orange juice and vodka together every morning to drink before I went to work. So I was drinking every night. I was drinking every morning. That's pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And I was just trying to numb the painful reality of my life and my dead-end job. I was in a pretty deep depression, as you can imagine. So I was just trying to numb myself. Didn't know what I was doing with my life. Had a bad job, going nowhere. Just drinking to kind of try to forget it. And I've struggled with pretty bad depression for most of my life. And very few people know that too. I don't talk about it a lot. I'm not talking about feeling down, or sad or blue. I'm talking about pretty deep depression. And I won't go into all the details because this has already got enough warnings on it. And that started my teen years, I would say. That started in my teen years, and it continued for a really long time. It's something that I still have to be aware of, right? And I've talked about how I manage that and what I do to head off my depression and keep it under control. And finally feel like I'm in a good place now. But back then, I was too young. I was 20. And I wasn't being honest with my family. They didn't know how I was doing. Of course, I was hiding all this. I was living on my own in a different city. I lived far away from my family. And it got so bad that summer that I lost track of time. There is a month that summer that I just can't remember. I have no memory of that month. I kind of know what happened before that. I remember what happened after that. I was in the Army National Guard, so I know I went off to summer duty after that. I kind of remember that. But in the middle, it's just black. I just blacked out. I don't remember. I have no idea what happened. So I had total memory loss, drinking too much. I don't even know what was going on. And it kind of scared me. And I realized I had hit rock bottom in my life, and I realized it had to stop. So I quit drinking cold turkey. I just stopped. I'm kind of surprised now that I was able to do that, but I just stopped. Unfortunately, I was still hanging out with my friends at that time, the party crowd, so it made it really difficult. Really difficult. I still wanted to have friends. I still wanted to play basketball and hang out with folks, but they always wanted me to drink with them. So they're always trying to get me to drink. They were offering me drinks, and I just said, nope, I'm not drinking in that. We're like, what? Nobody likes that. If you've ever been in this kind of a crowd and you've been down a bad path, you know that you have to change your scene eventually and you have to make new friends. They don't want to see you sober, and they don't want you to quit. But I refused. I refused to drink. And eventually I just left the city. I moved away and moved back home. I was broke, going nowhere. And I moved back home with my parents for a couple of months while I was planning my next steps. I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? And two of my friends were in kind of the same boat. They had dropped out of college too and weren't happy with their jobs in life. And so we road tripped to Arizona. One of the guys had some connections there and some family there. We didn't have a good plan. It was not a very well-planned journey. So we just drove down there, road tripped, and we're sleeping at one guy's brother's house, I think, and just trying to find jobs, any kind of job. We're trying to find jobs on farms there and other kinds of blue collar work. We never ended up getting a job. We couldn't get any jobs, so we ended up driving back home and broke, even more broke now, wasting all that money on food and gas, and pretty upset with each other that we'd done that and never got a job. And I was tired of being at home. I knew I had to do something. So I moved to the big city. I moved to Omaha, which is, in Nebraska, it's a pretty big city. It's a pretty big city now. And I was living in my cousin's basement while I worked in the stock room at a Kmart there. Pretty glamorous, huh? So yeah, moving on up, living in the basement, working at Kmart. Still not sure what I was going to do, but at least I wasn't doing what I was doing before. I wasn't drinking. And I did end up going back to my college town for a party. My old college buddy and roommate had invited me. He said, hey, come to a party we're having this weekend. Come see us. And talked me into doing that. And that weekend, they kind of talked me into going back to school. Yeah. I mean, he said I could live with him, and we had another roommate to save money on rent, so it's going to be really cheap. And I knew, I was like, I can't keep doing this. Working at Kmart's not a good future. So I re-enrolled. I went back to school. And that was a turning point. That was a big turning point. So I returned to university and I changed my major. I'd been in mechanical engineering and I switched to psychology. And this time I really applied myself. I said, well, what would happen if I tried? What would happen if I studied? What would happen if I really did the work every day, every week, and didn't procrastinate? And I started getting A's in everything, getting A's in all my courses. And it was hard work to get my GPA back up. I got all A's from that point on, but yeah, it's hard to get your GPA up after you've had a really bad initial year. And of course, I didn't have my scholarship anymore, so I was paying for college, and I was in the Army National Guard, which helped a little bit. Took out loans, all that kind of stuff. And I changed my crowd. So no more of that crazy party life, no more of that. Changed my crowd, hanging out with people who actually wanted to study and do well in school. And I got a new job. I got a job on campus, started working, building security, stuff like that. And slowly but surely, I started climbing out of that dark hole that I had dug for myself over the past few years. And then later, I'd already kind of got stuff back on track. And I think at this point I was a police dispatcher. So I, quote, got promoted and got kind of a full-time job being a police dispatcher while I was going to college. So I was working full-time, going to college, and trying to get everything wrapped up and starting to think about what was next. And one night I met the most wonderful woman in the world. Amazing. I've told this story before, but our eyes met across a crowded room, and I said hi, and she said hi, and I thought I'd never see her again. But then, lo and behold, a couple weeks later, we ended up in a night class together. Very small night class, my very last class. Who would have thought? And we started talking, and eventually we started dating. So yeah, that was 34 years ago. I mean, it's been a long time. We got married. Now we've raised 3 amazing children, wonderful children, who've all had much better lives because I wanted them to learn from my mistakes. And I've been with her for over 33 years now. And I've said it before, but I'll repeat it again because I think it's so important. finding the right life partner will change your life. It will change your life. Finding someone who really loves you and cares enough about you to want the best for you and to give you the tough feedback you need to hear and to know that you're capable of more, right? They know. They know who you are. They know how ambitious you are. And they know just that you're meant for better things. And they support you. And they give you feedback and they push you and they encourage you. And you do it for them. You're there to support each other through everything. And that will make all the difference in your life. It really will. And you have to change the people you surround yourself with. I had more ambitious friends around me and people who really wanted to get ahead in life. And I've talked about that in a podcast on my Invincible Career podcast, a guy who turned his life around. Similar, had some problems and found the right people to surround himself with and made him want to be a better person. And so, yeah, the rest of the story is really me just refusing to settle for less in life, because at one point I did. I gave up on myself. I hit rock bottom at 20. Kind of sad. And I don't ever want that to happen again. I believe in myself. I am working on liking myself. That's an important thing too. You have to like yourself. You have to love yourself. And so after that, I went on to graduate school. I had tried briefly to get a job with my undergrad degree, and I found out that doesn't actually do much for you. You're not going to get a great job with a BA in psychology. So I went to graduate school at Rice University down in Texas, and again, I applied myself and worked really hard and got my PhD. So I have a PhD in psychology. Never would have believed that would have happened. Never would have believed it after all the mistakes I made and dropping out. And then I moved out to California and began working in the tech industry, out in Silicon Valley. So my first job was at IBM, and then got a job at Apple, which was a dream company and a dream job for me. So that was an amazing time. Worked at a bunch of startups after that, and then went to eBay and got into management. I've talked about this on my career podcast. And again, learning to not settle for less, learning to believe in myself, refusing to backslide. I applied myself, and I was getting promoted every year and got into management. Got a job at Yahoo and became a vice president. So I was running product management design for Yahoo Search for many years there. And after that, I left, started my own businesses, had my own startup, and I'm still doing that, still doing that. And I've been independent for the last 14 years and counting, and I work hard. I don't want to ever be that person that I was back then. Don't ever want that to happen. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I got really serious about my health because much like before, you kind of notice these trends, you notice things happening, you want to get ahead of it. So I was getting ahead of it before it got too bad. And I saw this back in 2008, 2009, where I was just working so much, working so many hours and not taking care of myself that I was gaining weight and I was really out of shape. And I thought, I'm going to die. I'm not going to live very long if this continues. And I had seen members of my family struggle with heart disease and diabetes and cancer and stuff like that. So I said, again, you know what? No more of this. And I started eating healthy, exercising daily, joined CrossFit, started doing powerlifting, started doing trail running. And again, that's the partner that makes such a huge difference. My wife got me into CrossFit. My wife got me running. And she works out every day too. She works out, still does CrossFit. I'm more in the home gym now doing powerlifting. But yeah, it worked. I lost 40 pounds and I work out pretty much every day. I've been doing that for the last 16 years. Like I said, we went skiing today and I worked out today. And that's kind of the story now. It's like once you've seen the bottom Once you've experienced it, and if you claw your way back out of that, you don't ever want to go back there again. And it is possible. They say it's darkest before the dawn. Well, that was certainly true for my life. It was definitely a dark point. I stumbled and fell. Seriously, I guess I should just say it. I'm pretty sure I was an alcoholic. I'm pretty sure. Who does that? Who loses a month of their life? Who drinks every morning, every night? Yeah, that's an alcoholic. And it seemed hopeless. I thought that was going to be it for me. But I did get back on my feet. I did. Stopped drinking. Reinvented myself. Went back to school. And despite all those colossal mistakes, I created an amazing life. I have an amazing wife. I have 3 wonderful children. And I'm the happiest I've ever been, despite that huge misstep, those mistakes back when I was 20. So that's my message with this. I wanted to share this because I think people only see the end result. They only see the happy image on the outside. On social media, I share a lot of the good stuff. I don't talk too much about the bad stuff. So I think people think I have this wonderful, easy, amazing life, and it's been a hard battle to get here. It's been a long journey to get here, This has been a long road from 20 to my late 50s to finally be happy, to be in a place where I feel good about myself and I love my life. So I want you to know that it's possible. I want you to know that no matter how down you feel, how low you feel, how bad things get, you can always come back. You can always come back. And you can become the person you know you're capable of being. I believe in you. You should believe in you too. Until next time, I wish you the best of luck with pursuing the life of your dreams so you can be happier, healthier, and more fulfilled.